let's tackle a mod that I really don't want to get into. And that mod is Modern Industrialization. Why don't I want to attack this mod? Well, it's because it's sort of like GregTech. It's a lot of crafting recipes. It's like a long process. It can just get a bit tedious, is the perfect word for it. But let's get started with it. Now, I'm not going to dedicate a building to this just yet because I want to see where this mod will end up taking us. But if we can get through the first page today, it would be a success. And the first things we need to make is a forge and a hammer. So some weighted plates and some iron ingots later, we get a forge. And some diamond large plates and some sticks, we'll get a hammer. But we can upgrade this to netherite, which we will go and do. Now, this mod uses a heck of a lot of bronze. And I was lucky enough to get a bronze seed for mystical agriculture from a reward. So I've got a lot of bronze that we can make. And we're going to use the forge and the hammer to get bronze plates. We'll also make some bronze gears using 4 bronze ingots and an iron nugget. And combining those 2 items together will give us bronze machine casings. The next thing we're going to make is the bronze boiler, which is some fire bricks, some bronze plates, bronze tank, and a furnace. Everything here is pretty simple to make. We throw those things in a crafting table and we'll get ourselves a bronze boiler. Now, this is how you create power, because at the start of this, you need steam. That's what every machine is powered with. The next thing we're going to make is a water pump, which is again fairly simple to make. This time it uses a bit more copper, and we can get most of these copper items from the forge. The fluid pipes are a little bit difficult to make. They're a little bit expensive, but again, using the forge, we can get the required items, and it's just a glass pane in the middle. And once we have all the items that we need for the water pump, the next machine we're going to make before setting everything up is the compressor. Now, the quest book here advises you to have multiple of these things. Why? Because if you put an ingot in there, it will condense it down into a plate, making the forge absolutely redundant. And the way we get this is by a few fluid pipes, 2 copper gears, forge, couple of copper rods, and a bronze machine casing. And we'll make a couple of these so we have a little bit of leeway on what plates we can make at one given time. And once we have our few compressors, we're then going to start setting this process up. So I place the bronze boiler down as well as the water pump next to it, leaving a block just in case we need any pipes, with a infinite water source underneath the water pump, because this thing can pump in water from any side apart from the top. And when I tried to connect this up with fluid pipes, of course, it isn't going to work because steam isn't a fluid, it's a gas. However, when I referred back to the quest book, it says mechanism fluid pipes are useful. So maybe in this mod, it's not classed as a gas. So I came at it with a different approach. I simply put the boiler on top of the water pump. Now, we do have to give it some initial water just to get the whole process going, and then it'll automate itself afterwards, providing it has some coal in there. So we throw some coal in as well, and this thing starts producing steam. Now, with that producing steam, we're going to throw our compressors down. Now, again, this says we can use mechanism fluid pipes. However, I don't think I'm going to use those. I'm going to see if the fluid pipes from the pipes mod will work. And it does look like they will connect. That's perfect, because I already have loads of the fluid pipes from the pipe mod. So now that we have that process all set up, this will help with the next process, which we need to make the coke oven, which requires 21 bricks, an item input hatch, an item output hatch, a fluid input hatch, and a fluid output hatch, as well as the actual coke oven block itself. Now, like I've stated previously, some of these crafting recipes are very tedious, and boring, so I ain't going to show every single one. The way you make this coke oven, because it's a multi-block structure, we're going to need a wrench. And this basically shows you how to construct it. Now, when it comes to constructing it, your inputs and your outputs for both fluid and items need to be either at the bottom row or the top row. So you'll start off with a 3x3, and then you'll come up one block. You'll make a ring, leaving the middle block hollow, making sure on one of the sides in the middle that your coke oven block is in there, and then you'll do another 3x3 of bricks on the top. Now, I took out the 4 bottom corners and put my inputs on one side and my outputs on the other, and this seemed to work brilliantly. You'll know when it works when those brass inputs and outputs merge into bricks. Now that we know this thing is active and we fed it some steam, we can simply throw some coal dust inside, and after some time it will become coke dust. And then with that coke dust, if we combine it with some iron dust, we'll get steel dust, which is uncooked, and we'll cook that a little bit later on. The next thing we're going to need is raw synthetic oil, which if we mix water and coke dust in our new machine that we've made in the mixer, we'll get some raw synthetic oil. And the way we extract this from the machine is if we click on it with an empty bucket, it will come out the machine and into our bucket. And the way we refine this raw synthetic oil is by making another multi-block structure in the blast furnace. Now, this follows the exact same rules as the coke oven, however this is a little bit bigger, and we need to substitute the normal bricks out for fire bricks. And the same rules apply with the inputs and outputs. They all need to go either on the bottom layer or the top layer. And when refining the raw synthetic oil, you actually need 2 fluid inputs. Why is that? Well, 1, you need the steam for the power, and 2, you need somewhere to put the synthetic oil. And then after some time, it will become refined and just become straight up synthetic oil, which we will then take that synthetic oil, put it back into the mixer with some paper, and this will create us rubber sheets. Now, with those rubber sheets and copper plates, we can throw them in a crafting table to get ourselves analog circuit boards. And earlier on, we made some uncooked steel stuff. Well, we're going to throw that now into the blast furnace with some steam, and over time, it will make us some steel. And why do we need this steel? Because we need to make some steel plates and a steel gear to make a steel machine casing. And while waiting for the steel, I actually prepared all the materials that we need for the next machine that we're going to make, which is a cutting machine. Now, this cutting machine automates rods and bolts only, and you do need some form of lubricant fluid for this to actually work, which we don't really have as of right now. But what we can do with our steel machine frame is make the steel wire mill, which can basically just create different wires. You can put copper plates inside the wire mill and you'll get normal copper wire. However, if you put that normal copper wire back into the wire mill, you'll get a refined wire, which is like a smaller diameter wire. And we'll need both kinds of wires a little bit later on. Now, one use for the wires is making a capacitor, which is very simple to make. It's a couple of gold plates, rubber sheet, and 2 copper wire. The next item I'm going to make is the inductor, which is just a steel rod and copper wire. And this is where we need the fine wire, because we need to make a couple of resistors. Now, why have I been making all of these items? Well, it's all been leading up to making the analog circuit. Yes, that's right. This whole episode, we've managed to make 1 circuit. And I'm presuming I'm going to need a hell of a lot of these. So I'm going to end off today's episode there. So thank you all for watching today's episode. If you have enjoyed it, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe if you are new, and I will see you all again very, very soon. Goodbye.